Mort and the 12 Huntsmen. Written and narrated by me, Ronpon, whatever you want to call me. Once upon a time, there was a prince named Mort who was deeply in love with his fiancée. She didn't have a name in this story, but let's call her Gwen just to make it easier to refer to her. While they were happily spending time together, he received news that his father, the king, was gravely ill and wanted to see him one last time. Mort told his beloved, "I must leave you for now, but I will give you this ring to remember me by. When I am king, I will return for you." I don't know why she couldn't just go with him. It was probably pretty suspicious to her, and her suspicions would basically be confirmed, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Mort set off on his journey, and upon reaching his father's side, he found the king on the brink of death. The dying king told him,
"My dear son, I wanted to see you one last time before I died. Please promise me you will marry the princess I request."
And then he named a specific princess in a neighboring kingdom who was a real uggo. Mort was not into it. But, distraught and not thinking clearly, Mort agreed, saying, "Yes, dear father, your wish will be fulfilled." So after Mort was crowned king and the period of mourning had ended, he had no choice but to fulfill the promise he had made to his late father. He proposed to the princess and she accepted. When Mort's first fiancée heard of his betrayal, she was heartbroken and almost died from grief. And other girlfriends kept saying, "I told you so too, it was the worst." Her father, concerned for her well-being, asked,
"My dear child, why are you so sad? I'll give you anything you want just to see you smile."
She thought for a moment and replied, "Father, I want 11 girls who all look exactly like me in face, figure, and size." And her father replied, "That's oddly specific, but I'll see what I can do." He searched the entire kingdom until he found 11 young women who were perfect matches for his daughter. Those must have been some strange conversations, especially since he didn't even know why his daughter wanted him. But he did it. Gwen then had 12 identical outfits made, resembling a huntsman's attire. The 11 girls were asked to wear the outfits, and she donned the 12th one herself. After that, she said goodbye to her father and set off with the 11 girls to the court of her ex-fiancé, Mort, whom she still loved deeply despite, the betrayal. Upon arrival, she asked if he needed any huntsmen and if he would hire all 12 of them. Mort looked at her without recognizing her because she was wearing different clothes, but he welcomed them into his service as they looked like a fine group of huntsmen. A fine group of rather curvy huntsmen with pretty faces who all looked identical and very familiar. Anyway, they became the king's 12 huntsmen. Interestingly, the king had a lion that possessed extraordinary abilities, as it could, rather conveniently, discern hidden and secret truths. One evening, the lion said to Mort, it can also talk. The lion said to Mort,
"You believe you have 12 huntsmen?"
Mort replied, "Yes, of course." The lion continued,
"You are mistaken. They are actually 12 women."
And Mort went, "Oh, that would explain the boobs." However, Mort still wasn't quite convinced. "How can you prove it?" he asked. The lion suggested,
"Just scatter some peas in the antechamber and you'll see for yourself. Men have a firm step and don't disturb the peas when they walk over them. However, girls tend to trip, skip, and drag their feet, causing the peas to roll about."
The king was intrigued by this idea, as he was just as sexist as the lion and decided to give it a try. However, one of the king's servants had taken a liking to the huntsmen. He was oddly drawn to them, more than he'd ever been drawn to a group of men. When he learned about the tests they were about to face, he warned them and said,
"The lion is trying to convince the king that you're girls."
The ex-fiancé said, "The lion?" And the servant said,
"Oh, yeah, he has a talking lion who can discern hidden and secret truths."
And she was like, "What?" And he was like,
"Yeah, now that I hear it out loud, it is pretty crazy."
Gwen thanked the servant and instructed her fellow huntswomen, "Be strong and step firmly on the peas." The next morning, when Mort summoned the 12 huntsmen, they entered the antechamber with the scattered peas. They stepped firmly and confidently, not causing a single pea to roll or stir. Afterward, they left the room, and the king told the lion, "You lied to me.
They walk just like men.
The lion replied,
They were warned about the test and acted strong. Bring 12 spinning wheels into the antechamber, and they will be drawn to them, something no man would do.
King Mort agreed to this idea because, again, sexist, and arranged for the spinning wheels to be placed in the antechamber. Once again, the friendly servant informed the huntsmen of the plan. When they were alone, the king's daughter instructed the others, "Exercise restraint and don't even glance at the spinning wheels." The following morning, when Mort called for his 12 huntsmen, they walked through the antechamber without giving the spinning wheels a single thought. Ha! Okay, let's pause for a moment to clear things up because this is getting silly. I joke, but this is an old fairy tale written by legitimate sexists. But just in case you're reading this and taking it at face value, let me be clear. Women are not biologically drawn towards spinning wheels, okay? It's just that they weren't really allowed to do much else because men had a monopoly on all the cool stuff and someone had to make them. But they aren't drawn to them the way men are drawn to an open car hood. Okay? Okay. Anyway, the huntswomen somehow managed to keep themselves from fawning all over the spinning wheels, so the king was once again fooled. He spoke once more to the lion, saying,
"You've deceived me. They are men, for they don't like spinning wheels."
The lion responded,
They knew about the test and restrained themselves.
Mort, however, refused to believe the lion any longer. One might argue that he should have investigated the leak, but nobody said Mort was smart. Plus, he was busy doing king stuff. Now, the 12 huntsmen always accompanied Mort on hunting trips, and his fondness for them continued to grow. In fact, he started to worry that he was getting a bit too fond, seeing as they were ostensibly men, and homosexuality was frowned upon to say the least, especially for a king who needed an heir. One day, while they were out hunting, news arrived that the king's bride-to-be was on her way. Upon hearing this, Mort's true love felt heartbroken, and she fainted from the pain. Concerned about his beloved huntsman, Mort rushed to his/her aid, intending to help him/her. The pronouns are a nightmare in this story. In doing so, he removed his/her glove and discovered the ring he had given to his first love. When he looked at her face, he recognized her immediately. Mort's heart swelled with emotion, and he kissed her gently. As she opened her eyes, he said, "You are mine, and I am yours, and nothing in this world can change that," which she found super romantic. He sent a messenger to his would-be bride, kindly asking her to return to her own kingdom, as he already had a wife. He stated that someone who had found an old key didn't need a new one, which was totally unnecessary, and somehow managed to insult both women, but he was a king, so he got away with it. Following this, Mort and his true love held their wedding ceremony, and the lion was once again held in high regard, for he had, in the end, told the truth. And they all lived happily ever after. My voice didn't crack on the last one. Yeah! All right. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the story. If you did, like, subscribe, hit the bell, hit my Patreon. I don't know. You're probably already trying to click away from this video, so bye!